You know the story. We've all heard it a million times. You've got your mom's eyes, your dad's height, your personality is just baked into your genes, right? It's this idea that our DNA is a fixed blueprint, this set of instructions that basically decides who we are and who we're going to be. But what if that whole idea, that core belief, is just fundamentally wrong? What if the science behind it is actually more of a myth than a fact?
So that brings us to the big question right here. Are your genes your destiny? Are you basically locked into a future that your genetic code already mapped out for you? For a long time, a certain kind of science told us, yeah, pretty much. But the authors of the book we're digging into today, The Heredity Hoax, are here to say very, very loudly, no. And look, this isn't just some small academic disagreement. As Mark Bornstein puts it, we're talking about fatal misconceptions. That's a huge deal. The book we're exploring argues that this whole deterministic view of genes is actually one of the most significant and damaging errors in all of modern science. Okay, so what exactly is this so-called hoax? To really get it, we need to dive into the scientific idea that the authors are pushing back against so hard. It all boils down to this concept called genetic reductionism. Now, the key idea here is that it basically treats living things, including us, like machines. It's the belief that if you could just understand all the tiny little parts, the individual genes, the chemicals, you could perfectly explain and even predict a whole complex person. It's a very neat and tidy story, but the authors argue it's also dangerously wrong. And they really don't mince words. They straight up call this massive oversimplification a hoax. Now, why use such a strong word? Well, because they argue this isn't just some bad science that stayed in the lab. Oh no, it's an idea that has been used to justify social policies and completely shape how we view one another in the real world. The book really breaks down the problem into 4 huge flaws. First, you have scientists making these massive claims that go way, way beyond what their data actually shows. Second, they're just flat out misinterpreting what the data even means. Third, and this one is a biggie, they're making claims about how genes operate that are just factually incorrect. And finally, you take all of that flawed science and you apply it to real-world policies that affect millions of actual human lives. So this is where we see how a flawed scientific idea can snowball into something with very real and often truly devastating consequences. And that is the crucial point. This stuff goes so far beyond textbooks and university lecture halls. The idea that some people are just genetically wired to fail while others are wired to succeed, well, that has massive implications for how we build our entire society. And just look at this. It really shows how far the tentacles of this idea have reached. Genetic reductionism has been used to explain away inequalities in, well, everything, from education to poverty to criminality. It's influenced policies on health and reproductive rights, and time again, it's been a roadblock to achieving real social justice. But okay, here's the hopeful part. The book doesn't just tear down the old broken model, it actually builds a new one. It gives us a more complex, more dynamic, and honestly, a much more optimistic way of understanding how we become who we are. And this new framework has a bit of a fancy name. It's called Relational Developmental Systems, or let's just call it RDS. And trust me, it completely flips the old script on its head. Just look at this comparison. I mean, it makes the shift so incredibly clear. The old idea is a static blueprint, where genes cause behavior. It's that classic tired nature versus nurture fight. But this new RDS model says, hang on, that's the wrong way to even ask the question. It's not a blueprint, it's a recipe. It's not static, it's dynamic. It's not versus, it's nature and nurture, working together, a constant, interacting biosocial system. This recipe analogy is just perfect. Think about it. Your genes are like the ingredients, right? The flour, the eggs, the sugar. But those ingredients don't determine the final cake all by themselves. No way. The outcome depends entirely on the cooking process, the oven temperature, the order you mix everything, your skill as a baker. That is your environment, your experiences, your relationships. The final result, the person you become, emerges from that amazing dynamic interaction. So what does it really mean to just throw away the idea of a genetic blueprint? Well, it means we have to fundamentally rethink what it even means to be human. If we are pre-programmed machines, if we're actually dynamic developing systems, then our potential isn't fixed at birth. It means change is always possible. This view puts all the emphasis on things like plasticity, growth, and the incredible impact that a supportive environment, a great education, and social justice can have on every single one of us. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. As Larry Nucci points out, this new science isn't just about being more accurate. It's optimistic. It gives us a solid scientific foundation for creating policies that actively help people flourish and build a more equal world for everybody, because it shows us that our biology does not have to be our destiny.
So we're going to leave you with this final big question. If we move beyond this heredity hoax, if we embrace this more dynamic, more hopeful view of ourselves, what new possibilities open up? If there really is no fixed blueprint, what are the limits of human potential? What are we all truly capable of becoming?